So Kev, so I was walking
Yes, Adam.
My dog Charlie, and for anyone who's wondering, not my
Don't worry
brother.
about it.
Don't worry
For
about
anybody
it.
who's wondering, don't worry about it.
We
Don't
might
worry
be
about
laughing about something stupid that we said on the last recording, but I was walking my dog Charlie, and I was listening to Mobb Deep, Shook Ones Part 2, and we're about to record this episode. For some reason, I'm listening to that while I'm outside, and I was thinking about the Bears and Eberflus, and I'm like, huh. Eberflus is kind of shook. He might not be a crook. He's not trying to be a crook, right? Not trying to be a crook, son, but he still is a shook one. And I say that because it really does feel like Eberflus is coaching for his job at the moment. He seems shooketh, like incredibly shooketh, and that's where I'm going with that.
Okay, hang on. You know what? Never mind. I'm gonna let that go. I'm not familiar with the song.
You're not familiar with the song? Oh, okay. So it's the verse. The chorus is, "You ain't a crook, son. You're just a shook one," right? They're talking about like other people trying to pretend to be crooks. They're like pretend criminals, right? It's God, it sounds so white saying that. Holy cow!
I don't think you should be allowed to quote Mobb Deep.
I shouldn't be, but it's a damn good song, you know. And so white. Anyway, so is Eberflus. Eberflus is also incredibly shooketh and white. And so where I'm going with this is,
Eberflus
he seems
is
shook.
white.
Huh?
Oh, I thought we wanted to talk more about how Eberflus is white. Yeah.
I mean that too, but.
Do I agree?
I feel really like so. Okay,
much.
Here's where I'm coming from. Sorry to cut you off. On the press conference, they also, I believe it was Nicholas Moreano again, had asked him. So typically, Cairo Santos takes his PATs from the right hash, right? How do you feel? Do you feel like you could have done something like, was that taken into consideration? Was that taken into consideration when running that last play to set up the field goal?
Sure.
And he's like, we feel happy with with the decisions we made. And here's my thing. The fact that he keeps doubling down blindly makes me feel like he's got a little bit of heat under the seat, and makes me feel like he is just doing what he can to fight off that heat and doesn't realize where he's at. And so now he's just reacting, instead of doing it probably properly by admitting some mistakes, taking some accountability, et cetera, he is shooketh. And by being shooketh, he is just answering any way he can that's defensive. I mean, he's a defensive-minded head coach, but defensive in the sense of defending his decisions in ways that probably aren't the best.
Right. And so he's not a crook, or he is a crook.
No, I don't think he's trying to be a crook. That's where the whole song kind of goes away. Maybe he is. You don't know. He's stealing. He is stealing.
Yeah, but I thought Mobb Deep said that. I thought Mobb Deep said that the person is not a crook, but they are shook.
Well, yeah, but they're pretending to be a crook, which is the point. So I guess he's not a crook. Yes,
they pretend to be a crook.
Yes, he is pretending to be a crook by.
I just want to keep doing the thing where I miss the point of the football discussion and I only focus on whether this analogy works.
Well, it actually kind of does now that you say that, because he thinks he's stealing. He's pretending to be a head coach, right? Pretending to be a crook by taking away our money, but we all see through him. He's not. So I don't know.
Here's the thing. I'm not. I don't want to be contrarian just to be contrarian. Because the thing is, Eberflus was wrong. His logic was wrong. But I was texting you, and then I immediately biscuited it. I'm not going to say skeeted it, but I'm not biscuit it.
Just say threw it on Blue Sky, post it on Blue Sky. I don't freaking know. I'm not going to call it skeet either. I don't
posted is the word, but I want there to be a word. I immediately admitted to this because my timeline is full of other Bears fans who, other Bears fans who may or may not. I truly don't know, but I didn't see anybody else say this, so I'll just say this. I did want to run just one more time and then kick the field goal. I'm going to be honest. I thought the likelihood of the Bears offense having some dumb fucking procedural penalty, a holding, something. I was afraid of that. I thought we were
I
in
think
good
that's
enough
higher
position.
than. I think that
Clearly, that is wrong. He missed the kick. He kicks it too low. The Packers had specifically seemed to have scouted this out. They said that they were expecting to be able to block one because they saw the trajectory on his kicks.
They also cheated a little bit. Like looking back at it,
I was screaming. So I screamed the wrong thing at the TV. I screamed leaping, which it wasn't leaping. It was kind of leverage.
I don't know if that was. It's definitely like the I don't know what the penalties call it, but essentially like interference with the snapper. His head was still down. I don't know.
I don't even know.
Leverage,
I don't even know if
specifically
leverage
pushing
is,
off, and I think he was using leverage. It might be right, but they at least ran into they ran into the snapper.
It might be roughing the snapper 15 yards. If I had to, I don't know. That might be actually what it is.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I have no
idea.
I
don't care. I don't like. Yeah, I think technically that was a penalty. And I cared very much in the moment. But it was also a little ticky tacky, and
to be fair,
the kick was very low and it was very blockable, and they blocked it. And if they hadn't screwed with the long snapper, they might have still blocked it. So it is what it is.
To be fair, I personally didn't care, and I still don't care, specifically because it probably happens more often than we want to say it does. And only because this was a really big kick, do we notice it, right? Probably a ton don't get blocked when that happens even. I also think that like end of game stuff, refs do tend to swallow their whistles, and it sucks. We've seen it a lot. Burrow on that 2-point conversion, Darnold on that, what was that, a safety or at the end of the game for the Vikings a couple weeks ago, getting the face basically face mask.
Safety.
We see it. Face mask, yeah. It was a safety. That's what it was. So all of that, we see it happen all too often. I'm not going to complain. Here's my big thing, and here's the thing that I will sit with is, and this is why I don't care. I think Adam Hogue actually echoes the same sentiment. So I promise I got to this without him. But my point being, there were plenty of opportunities to win that game before that kick without needing that kick.
So you know what? I've heard that said about I've heard that said about so many things, and I'm gonna almost disagree with myself because I guess I am just being contrarian. I fucking hate when people say that. Of course there were. You can't you can't play a perfect game, but you had a chance to do the thing. I've made this point before. People hate this.
Why I'll make it again.
It's like when people are like, you can't blame Steve Bartman. What about Alex Gonzalez missing the double play ball? Well, if Steve Bartman hadn't done that, there would have been another out. So it would. We had
the same conversation. We had the same conversation with the Congress game. I'm just always.
That's what I'm saying. I hate when they're like, "There's other things you could have done." Well, you could have just done this one thing. Yeah. It would have been fine.
Just having played ball and everything like that. Not trying to use that card on you, but it's more so what I'm trying to say here is so many plays add up, and there were so many plays that could have added up to a win that we did not take advantage of. You just look at like the JJ tripping up with Watson, which I can't fault him, incidental contact, etc. You've got the 2-point conversion. If you can actually convert that, there's a 4th down scenario where I think right at the end there when we punted it and we gained 15 yards off that damn punt, 15 net yards after the penalty and everything that happened.
Because of the penalty. Yeah.
I would have, because of the penalty. But even then they returned it to the 20, so it was still like 20. It was like 25 yards turned into like 10 or something like that. I can't remember specifically, but I know they returned it to like the 20, and then we had a penalty as well. If I remember,
it's not quite right. It wasn't a great punt, but I think we punted it from their 44 to about their 14.
Okay, 14,
and then
so a net of 30 would have turned into a net of 20. I think something like they're 25. I would have rather have gone for it. I think we were talking about it at the time. I would have rather gone for it there, try to kill the game.
We're both saying go in that situation for sure. Here's the thing.
So like I think of those. That's the thing.
What's odd to get back to the crook shook fucking thing is
we get a swear jar for you?
No, because mine are always warranted.
Is that one warranted? Go on.
Yes, it needs to be dismissive. I don't. A coach who's coaching for his job goes for it there. I don't think so. No, I think aren't you supposed to go to nothing to lose? Aren't you supposed to go into nothing to lose territory at some point?
No. You go into trying not to lose territory. It's the opposite. I truly believe it's the opposite.
Maybe this is the difference in our definition. That poor sweetie doesn't know he's already fired. You might as well do all the crazy shit you can now to not get fired and reverse the decision because you're already fired.
I don't think he feels that way. I don't think he feels like he's already fired. I think he thinks that if he can try not to lose and win these games and sneak into the playoffs, they're still in. I agree with you. If you feel like you're already fired, maybe you get to a point where it's like it goes back to Lovie Smith trying to win that game.
So now that's a swear jar for you. No reason to say the
I stopped it. I censored myself. I knew what I was saying, but I stopped it halfway through the so no, that's like Lovey. That's different though. Lovey already knew he was gone. There was no chance of him saving his job. I think there's a chance of you saving your job, so you go into conservative mode, right? There's a difference between like Dan Campbell constantly staying aggressive, which I love, versus Brandon Staley, who started off aggressive and then turned into a turtle, right? Because now he's scared for his job and now he's playing much more conservative because that's what he keeps hearing is these decisions are making you lose, even though they weren't. They were keeping him in games a lot of times. And that is where you start to turtle up. That's how I see it.
I thought you were gonna say he turned into I thought you were about to say he turned into a turd, and I was going to really enjoy that.
Oh, well, maybe he did that too. He's probably still good DC. I don't know.
He seems like a turd of a person. There was that thing about him, like the linebacker. It was like the linebacker Diane Henley's birthday, but it's also somebody else's birthday, and he specifically only wished the one guy happy birthday. So he's probably a turd as well.
Who knows? I don't know.
Anyway, I just want to make the point, like I'm probably in the minority of people that was thinking this way at the time. And honestly, I should have trusted Caleb. Because the other thing is, Caleb was good all day. Well, let's I don't know. Do we have anything to say before we get into Caleb a little bit?
He was decisive, and that was what we were yelling about in the last episode we had, since we didn't record a preview for last week.
So let's talk.
I think he looked a lot better.
Let's talk about. You can't talk about Thomas Brown or Caleb without Thomas Brown, or vice versa. So let's talk about both those things. First thing,
remind me of a point I had earlier in the week. Sorry, go on, keep going. That's perfect.
Well, I just want to say, one by one. So Caleb was decisive. It's odd to me because it didn't take the form that I necessarily wanted it to take exactly. He tried a couple of aggressive middle of the field shots, but it more so took the form of, I don't see exactly what I want to see, and therefore I'm running.
But I also think that's a good sign, because that's what Daniel's doing. That's what May is doing. I think that's a rookie surviving, right? That's when we say like a mobile quarterback has a better chance to survive till they're ready to actually play if you start them early. It's because they have the ability to do this, right? Is to escape the pocket when things are breaking down and they're fuzzy still. It's like, just if you're decisive about it, that's how you survive.
100%. It's not the exact form that we were saying that we were hoping we would see it in, but it is a form. And
eventually you hope to transform into the other way as he gets experience.
Yes. That was great. I don't know. I'm going to be a little scattershot. Why don't you just make your point?
I guess, okay, so my one thing that I noticed with Thomas Brown, let's bring it back to Thomas Brown a little bit over Caleb, since you mentioned him. I had that write up on Blue Sky about the third and shorts and a couple of things, right? Third and short, we're basically always trying to attack the flat, but on top of that, one big thing was when we're in gun, we're passing. When we're under center, there was only one play out of like 6 or 7 that we threw the ball, we ran it. So it was almost obvious.
The specific splits would even more so make it obvious what was about to happen.
Out of stacks, it's slant flat. Out of bunches, it's it's basically sail. It's corner flat technically, because you don't have like a fly, a 9 route on the edge. Yeah, which typically finishes off the sail concept because you want to clear. And then out of spread, right? Especially with like a tight end in the 1 for some reason. So when I say the 1, I mean the outside wide receiver. So it's 1, so we're counting from outside in 1, 2, 3, right? If you've got 3 by 2. So you'd have Komet lined up outside on the 3 side, the trip side, and then we would run he'd run a clear, and then we'd basically run what's it called? 9 flat. So he would run the clear out, and you'd have a flat there. Why am I clearing out with Komet? I'm sorry. I'll have my safety take care of that over the top of me. There's there are different variations of basically concepts that we're trying to attack the flats with. And you know what I saw Thomas Brown do? I didn't even need to watch the film because I could see it. You could see it. We're running read option out of shotgun on 3rd and 2 multiple times because to the defense, they're scouting that and they're saying, oh, hey, they're in shotgun. They're probably going to throw because every time they've been in shotgun this whole season, they have thrown the ball and they have thrown the ball through a slant and they also rarely ran RPOs or play action off of it. It has been just a throw. Like it has been a drop back pass concept. That's it. So I see that immediately after doing my scouting before, and I'm like, boom, and I do think that's why a lot of those read options work so well, especially when Caleb would pull the ball, because we haven't seen Caleb really pull the ball on a lot of the read options.
Yeah, that is the thing. That is almost certainly going to be scouted away, I would say, immediately, right? Yes. Like because we touched on this, but we didn't publish we published this, but we didn't publish we hit on this, but we did not publish the episode because the episode sucked. But one thing was the offense is likely to get better by default because the Packers can only scout those obvious tendencies that that Waldron put on tape, and literally anything else is going to catch them by surprise. Now there's stuff on tape, so now does Thomas Brown have a wrinkle in him is a very pertinent question because now the stuff he likes to do is on tape.
And I think just listening to him talk, and a lot of fans love the confidence that he's shown versus Waldron. The one thing that I'm trying to pick up on, like what he's saying more so than that, right? And the thing that I picked up on is he's talked a lot about tendencies and what we show and like what is on there. So I think he's more conscious of it. Whereas Waldron just talked about executing and making sure that we do our jobs, etc. So it felt like Waldron was like, no, if we just keep running these plays, eventually when these guys actually execute these plays, it'll work. It's like it's hard to execute when the defense is coming down your throat because they know exactly what's happening. So now you're in panic mode, right? Like it's a bit different than, oh, hey, maybe we got the defense on the heels. I get a split second to remember what I got to do, right? It's so bang that when you feel that threat, because they were flying, New England was flying on these plays. Whenever they saw it on 3rd and short, they knew exactly what we were trying to do and they were attacking it.
Yeah,
I do think that with what we did, we gave ourselves a little bit of breathing room, and I think he'll continue to make sure that he sees what our tendencies are and goes off of that. But we'll see. I mean, it's a long season. I do think that helped a ton. But I don't know if that specifically is what helped Caleb, right? Like, yeah, it helps to be able to do that for the offense, and now we're converting on those certain shorts. But Caleb looked a lot better in other situations. And there might have been other tendencies that we broke that made it easier for Caleb, right? That I hadn't looked into yet. But Caleb looked decisive. And
right, so
as we mentioned, and I think that is such a huge difference.
The thing is, I wonder, so it's not like it cannot possibly be that all of the bad voices have left the room. There's no way that Waldron was the one that was forcing him to stand in the pocket and have no internal clock.
There is, though, the chance that one voice amplified, right? And that voice that got the amplification, Thomas Brown.
Yeah, man, but we can strongly suspect that he wasn't even the strongest voice. It almost certainly is still Eberflus. Now, Thomas Brown could be a very loud voice saying the opposite, and that might help things along. I just find it odd because it seems like there were specific coaching points to Caleb that were not there before. Because again, Caleb is not a different guy than he was 2 weeks ago, or 6 weeks ago, or a year ago. He's still wired the same way. And this was more so what he's wired to do than anything we saw the past 3 weeks. So it's just, I don't know. I mean, this is a rambly way of saying, I guess, that I'm looking forward to the next game to see if this remains. Because again,
small sample.
Right. But it correlates with a major change to the offensive coaching staff and seemingly a bunch of new coaching points.
Also, if you notice the lighting by being changed, my top monitor now is PFF, and I don't have that in dark mode. So all of a sudden now my dark monitor is just like shining bright white light on me. I don't know. You like pause as that happened. I'm like, oh, hey, I hope I didn't throw him off there. Go on. I'm specifically trying to pick up Caleb's turnover-worthy play rate in college because I can't remember it specifically throughout. I know his last year was probably a little bit higher, but he only had 5 interceptions.
You know what I do know? You know what I do know, interestingly, is that Caleb. So I guess this is not that interesting, but over the past 4 weeks, Caleb has 0 turnover-worthy plays, which not necessarily a good thing. But against the Packers, 0 turnover-worthy plays. I can remember one where I probably would have given him a turnover-worthy play.
No, that was the one that Brady, I think, talked about. I don't think that was even close. It was a tight window.
Maybe Brady swayed me because I do remember saying that Brady said. So Brady said I probably wouldn't have thrown that, and I remember saying to you, "Well, it's because you're a pussy, Brady."
Yes, we both complained about that because I think we both want to see him take more of those shots. You brought it up though. You're like you brought it up in that way, and I'm like, yeah, Brady, sure, you can get away with that because you've been. By the time you were very good as a quarterback, and to be fair, one of those people who believes the first 3 championships Brady won, those first 3 Super Bowls were on the defense and not on him. Eventually, though, he became such a damn good pocket passer that everything else after that, I give a lot of credit to Brady. I think he's one of the best pocket passers to play the game on top of with Peyton Manning. So I'm not trying to take anything away from him. But by the time you get to that point where you can do it without taking those risks, you need to take those risks to see it. Great, you were able to win because you had such a phenomenal defense behind you and you were winning games back when offenses weren't good enough to overcome a phenomenal defense.
Adam, I love you. This is becoming a totally unnecessary Brady rant.
Yeah, what I'm trying to end with here is Caleb needs to take those shots. And I didn't think that was a turnover worthy play. I thought that was just a tight window shot that was perfectly acceptable and made me happy to see. Now, I wanted to look back, and it looks like, so we know in his last year at USC, he had a bunch of fumbles. So that probably contributes to this 3.6. But his second to last year was a 1.6 turnover worthy play rate. The reason I'm bringing this up is he did idolize Aaron Rodgers. And who hates throwing interceptions more than Aaron Rodgers? In fact, you could say that he's unaggressive to a fault. He will try to mitigate risk until he absolutely has to. Right? It's one of the biggest complaints with him in the playoffs. I still think that Eberflus is the one in his ear trying to hold him back as much as he has. And I hate that. And this is why I want Eberflus gone by the end of the season. But I just had a thought as we were talking. Maybe it is also because he takes after. So, just like Fields took after Russell Wilson almost to a fault, and Russell Wilson was his hero, maybe Caleb almost to a fault takes after his hero, Aaron Rodgers.
To be honest, stylistically, those are very similar. I think it then just comes down to talent and intelligence.
Talking about Russell Wilson and Rodgers, or
I think Wilson and Rodgers are stylistically similar. They both want to attack the sideline more than anything and extend plays with their legs.
I want to say Rodgers
Wilson is more willing to put it in harm's way. I guess the thing is Rodgers we never. This is so tangential and probably unnecessary, but we never saw the first 3 years of Rodgers' career. Besides, the stray game here or there. By the time he was, coming in, he'd been baking for a while, and Rodgers didn't not attack the middle of the field. He just wanted the window to be slightly more open than it was because he was very risk averse. And Caleb in college, he did attack the middle of the field, and it was not always open. I would say, think about the touchdown pass to Keenan Allen against the Jaguars over the middle. That is a dot in the middle of the field that I wish Caleb would throw more of. He's not like. I'm surprised that he seems habitually afraid to do it, because when he does it, it's great, and he's not totally averse to it in the same way that Rodgers is not totally averse to it. I don't mind that he has a certain way that he likes to attack the field. It's not my exact preference, but I don't know. I wish there was a little more middle of the field stuff. There's also some play calling stuff too. Goes into that.
No, I hear you. And just to looking at his passing chart now, I would say there was not really much in the middle of the field. He had 2 deep shots in the middle of the field, one about 19, the other about 25 yards. And then why doesn't it show the touch this week? Week 11 was
the 19 is clearly the across the body hero play to Rom, one of his big time throws.
Yes, that one. I want to say that was that. Where's the Keenan Allen touchdown though? right?
That was against Jacksonville.
That was against Jacksonville. Okay, thank you. I thought there was a touchdown pass. Did he not have a touchdown pass?
I don't believe he had a touchdown pass now.
Okay. All right, never mind. I don't know why I'm remembering it. Deep middle touchdown pass. I might be thinking of another week. Yeah, so just off of that, there really wasn't much deep middle, intermediate middle. Just give me a second. Intermediate middle, nothing. I mean, he had an attempt. So yeah, the Rome one, that's it. And then incompletion, probably about 17 yards in.
And the Rome one is a little desperation, a little playmaking, which I'd love to see more of course. Because that, of course, that's Caleb's whole thing. But it's not standing there and delivering to the middle of the field. Again, the routes are not usually going to the middle of the field. That's the one thing the one additional thing I'm asking of Thomas Brown going forward is let's attack the middle of the field and let's tell Caleb to throw it. We've already made the point, but that's the one thing that's been missing. I want to talk briefly about the last drive, and then we can move on to something else. So prior to that last drive, and this is, I think, probably more than anything, the most important point, is that Caleb had taken one sack that entire game, and it was 0% his fault. It was 100% a breakdown by the offensive line, or a play call that was expecting something to happen and it didn't happen because
it was a naked boot. It was a naked boot.
There was no blocking. There was no blocking of the weak side defensive end. Caleb got plenty of depth on his rollout, and he was just met. Like there's nothing Caleb could have done. I don't really think.
It was a naked boot, and the end did not fall for he went straight for Caleb. There was not a chance.
One might say the quarterback just needs to get more and more depth. Caleb got plenty of depth. It was totally on the play design. I assume
I would also give a lot to the edge as well. I don't know if it was on the play design because I think the edge came screaming off the line. And so typically, yes, he's going to come off unblocked. You expect him to sometimes.
I'm not saying it was necessarily a bad play design. I'm saying that the play design is what made the sack happen.
Yeah. Yep. I would give the edge a lot of props though on how.
Anyway,
that's all.
Again, when we got into desperation time, we know Caleb was dropping back. It is concerning that he took 2 sacks. First one was his fault, but he only lost a yard or so. Did a good job stepping up in the pocket and getting back what he could. Second one was really bad. I'm going to lob those 2 criticisms at Caleb. Those are the only 2 that I really have up from that game. But an obvious desperation passing time, he took 2 pretty hideous sacks, I would say.
Oh, yeah. Those last 2, I don't know how much. I feel like I might blame him only for one, to be honest. And then the other one was just so.
Oh, there's no way, man. He's got to at least get rid of it.
Yeah. I mean, he's a rookie. That's the only reason. I can see, dirt the ball. But we're
just talking about him as a quarterback. It doesn't matter. The excuses don't matter. It's fine.
Dirt the ball. I agree.
He played a terrific game.
I wouldn't say terrific. He played a very good game.
Very efficient. Terrific. I think he only made 2 or 3 mistakes the entire game. I think that's terrific. There's certain things I want to see out of him. I'd like him to complete that friggin' pass to Rome, that deep shot, but
that's just where I come back to.
We're not going to get that ever.
Well, I think we'll get that next year. I do think that deep ball accuracy, I think, is what increases the most over time.
That being said, the hero play, again, we know he has that in him. It was 3rd and 20, 3rd and 19, and he got 17, 18, 19, whatever it was on that play. Incredible throw. That was one of his big time throws. Now, the one that I really friggin' loved, and on 4th and 1, game on the line, I believe it was a slot fade to Rome. I don't think that his other PFF big time throw, because he got 2, I don't think that was it, but that was my favorite throw of the game. That took such balls. I just got to say that was the moment where I was like, oh god damn, I love you, Caleb.
Yeah,
that put it right on the money. Like struggling with his footwork to get an accurate pass. He's had so many where he tried to give the receiver a chance with the 50-50 ball and kind of left it a little short so Rome could come back to it. He put it exactly where it needed to be on 4th and 1 when I don't know, my instinct might be to wait and hope something short and easy breaks open, but he immediately threw that ball and I loved it. Then he throws with some pressure in his face, completes one to Keenan to get into field goal range. And then from that point, I should not have said this, but I was a little nervous and I just wanted to go. I wanted Caleb to go out on a high note is a part of it. But now I wish we would have. I wish we would have trusted him to throw it again. Obviously, in hindsight.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
It's just, I mean, from that really bad sack, but from that point forward, just that's why you're here, man. That was really fun.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing that I'll say. He was going off. He looked like he was on a heater on those 3 plays, and I feel like one thing with Caleb is once he hits that heater, he's just going to keep hitting that heater until he gets time to cool off on the sideline or something like that. I remember you messaging me, and I think I said I will understand if they just take it here. This is why I'm going to be fair here. I'm not going to give too much criticism on not running another play because I'm not allowed to give criticism if I'm sitting there saying I will understand if they just kick the ball here. Very stupid of me to do that. I'm going to be clear. I'm going to give myself some absolute crap for it. Yeah, we should have given him another chance to throw it. You can absolutely call it unsackable play. Here's the thing, Kev. We've seen this happen 3 times. I know you're smirking like, why are you giving yourself crap? We've seen this happen 3 times now. The second down field goal kick from the 43 plus. We've seen it happen 3 times at the end of a game, and all 3 times we have come back. Well, we didn't have this podcast for the Chargers game or the one from the Trustman era, and all 3 times we fail and we lose that game. So no, I should know better.
Eberflus doesn't know about those.
He should. They should know. I mean, they should absolutely know the history of some of the really bad. These are some bad games that stick out in bad eras of coaching. You should be able to know these.
All right, I'm going to be okay.
I think so.
I'll say this. I think it is instructive. It is instructive that for sure that we've seen it 3 times in the past 8 years, 10 years, whatever.
2 times before this, yes, and both with coaches that left their jobs.
They've all gone wrong. It points to a coach doing a bad job. I don't think Matt Eberflus should have to know about the history of the Chicago Bears down to the games where they lost on a field goal that was too long. I'm just going to say that.
Well, I still think and I don't know if I would run the ball again, to be fair. I know because a lot of people are like, let's run the ball with Roshan one more time. You could. Actually, you should, probably. But I would have been fine with also giving Caleb like a boot, not a naked boot because that has ended horribly, but like a boot or something like that. My only concern is we have seen so many pre-snap penalties, but we don't see. I mean,
man, I still, wait, I only back down. I only back down from it. I only with Santos.
Santos is clearly fine from 53 in. But Santos is fine from 53 in.
Clearly, he's not.
Well, yeah, but the trajectory probably doesn't change that much between 46 and 53. I think it changes significantly from 46 to 40. I think it's perfect from 41 on, if I remember correctly, for the Bears at least. And then his percentage is the same, I think, like up to like 54 yards.
It's stupid for either of us to pretend to know that much about kickers. I disagree, but neither of us knows.
It's anecdotal. What do you say? Anecdotal. And I've said, so it's for anybody joining, I say anecdotal all the time, and you've corrected me. Anecdotal. I think you thought I was saying that on purpose. No, I'm just stupid. Anecdotal evidence from listening to other people talk about it. So I'm pretty sure that's the stat, but I might be off.
Okay.
I don't have much else to talk about with this game other than run defense needs to sturdy up a little bit because that's going to be an issue. The touchdown at the end there, that sucks.
The run defense, it's just not gonna. It's just not gonna. It just is what it is. We're down Andrew Billings. We're giving real snaps to Pickens and Cowart and Chris Williams, and you don't want to be doing that, especially when the one good interior defensive lineman is also bad on run defense. He's there for other stuff. So it's just not going to get fixed. The linebackers are all over the goddamn place. I thought Edmonds played a terrible game. I thought Edwards played a terrible game as well.
A bit this season, I think, a little bit on the run defense side of things. They've both been, I think, better in coverage. Like, I haven't noticed our linebackers having issues in coverage as much as I've noticed.
I would say they've been well above average in coverage for my eye. Yeah, for sure. The run defense, I put a lot on them because they are expected to clean up for.
Yep.
I mean, by design in this defense, the defensive line is not supposed to be the main reason the run is stopped. It's supposed to be disruptive.
Your edges need to be there too. Your interior.
Well, the edges are fine. It's the interior that's been bad, and the second line of defense again is supposed to read properly and be in position, and they're constantly out of position on any sort of misdirection, anything.
It doesn't feel like Edwards is scraped. So like the will is very important in it, and he should be scraping over the top, right? A lot of run plays in this defense, and I say this in the sense of, I'll keep going. You go grab a beer. I say this in the sense of the old school, right here, like man. You can still hear you're good. You're good. I know. I say this in the old school Tampa too, right? Like Flus has changed this quite a bit. He's changed his fronts up a lot. They use varied fronts. They use varied run. Gap alignments. It's not the Alex Brown, Lance Briggs defense as much as Alex Brown and Lance Briggs want to talk about it being that defense. It's evolved quite a bit. The thing is, in the Alex Brown, Lance Briggs type of defense, you're supposed to be gaps on, but on top of that, the way that it really works is with the 3 technique coming through and crashing and always trying to penetrate. He's supposed to cause chaos in the background, in the backfield. That chaos should eventually lead and funnel everything back to the Will, who's typically unblocked on a lot of run plays and run designs. And so he'll scrape over and he'll come in and grab it from as the runner gets funneled to them. I don't know if that's how often they're using that specific style, but I think Edwards has played down a little bit on run defense. So.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. You can come back.
Did you notice that at all?
That you were back there? Yeah, absolutely. I was watching. I'm not going to stop in the middle of my statement to say it because then I'm going to lose my flow and then I sound like a mumbling idiot. So I'll finish my statement and then I'll say, "What the hell is that about? What you doing? Look over there, looking at me like that."
Oh, because I've heard it a billion times and I was sick of your bullshit.
Yeah, I know, but I gotta bring it up when it's relevant. All right, let's move on. Oh, actually, one last thing on the defense. Tyreek Stevenson. Terrell Smith should be starting. I think he's had a much better game. I think he's played very well when he's been in there. I think it's time to stop. They're rotating at the moment. I think it's time to stop the rotation. Just have Terrell Smith play, especially because I think Tyreek Stevenson had a personal foul. Got in the face of I don't know if it was called, but he definitely got in the face of somebody in the game, and he's
maybe I don't want to take that out of Tyreek.
It's got to stop happening though, man. It's like Javon Wims. Well, like if it happens once, sure. If it happens multiple times in a season, come on, dude, stop. You know what I mean? Like,
it hasn't been. I don't know. He's going to be feisty. That's I think
even performance-wise, Tyreek Stevenson has been underperforming quite a bit.
I guess this is where I agree and I disagree. I agree that Terrell Smith is probably the better player. He's been good all season, and again, I like to better come into the draft. So, my priors certainly don't have any issue with that statement.
Mine do, but that's fine. I'll call mine off. Go on.
I thought Tyreek was fine. The issues were the only corner issue was the one where we could, kind of wave it off and say, I mean, tough break, Jalen. I don't know, I forget exactly who was back there on that contested catch deep ball to Christian Watson the other time. I want to say that was both safeties, but I don't remember. So I reserve the right to change my mind on what I'm saying about Tyreek if Tyreek was responsible for that or a part of that. But aside from that, I thought Tyreek was fine. And again, Jalen tripped and led to a big play, and that stunk. But
the sad part is I was listening to Jalen Johnson talk about that play, and he said that had he not have tripped up on there, he's like, that ball's mine. He said he was actually expecting that throw, and he was going to go undercut it. It's like it's exactly how we're taught to do it. You need to undercut the essentially it's a dig, right? He's going to undercut the throw because you know how the ball is going to come through. So you got to get in front of the wide receiver to be even have a chance to play the ball. So you're working.
Was it Watson? Did Watson come all the way across from the right?
It's either a dig or a crosser. I think it was a dig. If it's JJ,
so he started on the right. He came all the way. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
They're coming across the middle. They're coming across the field. So either it's a deep crosser, which I would expect from like a slot, right? Not as much from like an outside wide receiver. And if JJ is on him, I would assume JJ is playing outside. So I would assume a dig there. Most likely, it could be a deep crosser still. Either way, middle ball. I think he's playing trill technique. Sees that the throw is going to come to him right. Reads it perfectly. Goes to go undercut it like he should. And they trip up.
And he trips. Tough play.
So that
stinks. What can you do?
That doesn't happen. We probably win the game because I trust JJ to play that ball perfectly.
One final thing I want to say about this game. A specific thing, and then one final thought. The DJ usage was
the personal usage. I think in general was,
but the DJ usage, I think specifically, I think I wouldn't mind going back and seeing exactly the types of runs they were doing with Swift, because we did, again, on the unpublished episode, we made some points about how we want to see far more gap in duo and far less zone with Swift. But I do know that there was a much more even carry distribution, which is good. And Swift, for once, on a toss play, did not get blown up 5 yards in the backfield. He took it to the house. That's great. That's what he's capable of doing. Get him in space. Don't have him have to read a block, and he might score for you. Excuse me. That was great. But the DJ stuff, again, I think the ADOT went from like 10 or 8 to 10 for this whole season down to like less than 2. We could probably meet somewhere in the middle, but like there were some real drags that they called for DJ, and Caleb found him on those drags. There was, I believe, the first successful wide receiver screen of the season to DJ. Actually blocked up properly and went for some real yards.
Can I list out his ADOT real quick on all of the games?
Sure.
Really fast. So the lowest before this game was 4.4 in week 1. Otherwise, the next lowest was a 5 the week before. Then an 8, 7.8, 9.4, 13, 13.1. Oh, there's 11.3 and 12.3 in there. That's deep. It's a lot of deep work. Even like intermediate.
That's to be expected of like Christian
this
Watson.
Past week?
Like a Christian Watson type. Like you're getting a 12, like you're using this guy as a pure vertical threat. Yeah. You could use him as a vertical threat. You don't only use him as a vertical. In fact, you do the other stuff more often.
This past week, 7 targets, 7 receptions, right? 62 yards. 0.9 ADOT.
0.9. Wow.
0.9 ADOT.
Got it under 1.
I'm sure it's 7 targets, right? So one of those targets, but it's over 7. It's not over 3. One of those targets was like -2 because it was a shovel pass on the jet, right? During shotgun, we did a jet sweep and it was a shovel pass to him, so that counts as a pass.
The screen I referred to was also probably about 2 yards in the backfield. But yeah, I mean the rest were drags, and I think he might have had one hitch. I forget. Yeah, man. I mean that's where it needs to start, and then you could build the rest of the route tree off of that. Again, maybe this is not quite the opponent to do it against coming up, but yeah, let's start with that stuff that he does incredibly, and then go vertical from there.
We'll talk about it, but I'm actually fine with using this kind of usage with DJ against the Vikings.
We will talk about it.
We'll talk about it. The other thing that I'll mention is
honestly, I think
all around though. All around though, just really quickly, all around, Keenan was more used on more short passing concepts, right? I don't remember much. Like I think the shot plays we took were to either DJ or to Rome. I don't remember a Keenan Allen shot play, for instance,
or the rare Cole Kmet.
The corner was a beautiful. Play. That was nice. That was beautiful.
Well timed. It was unexpected to some extent, and that's exactly the only time that you send Cole Kmet out to do anything past 10 to 12 yards. Like, yeah, put him on the corner. Little sail concept is probably what it was. I don't remember.
Yeah, he runs a corner route perfectly. He also, I think he runs a seam route, right, really well because he can go up and get it and turn around and grab it.
Yes.
He has more.
You
the whip
probably
route
don't want
was
to.
wild, but that he had a couple weeks
You
ago.
likely don't want to throw him the seam, by the way.
I'm fine with it if it's high, right? If you're trying to get it up there and it's like on him, you can't ask him to.
I'm not going to say it's not the dictionary definition of an alert, but a seam to a tight end is kind of an alert.
Oh, I see it as like an intermediate throw. I see a seam to a corner, to tight end as an intermediate, because typically, right, you're running like 4 verts or something like that. You're going up against quarters. You're trying to split the quarters. You're trying to get there before he gets to the.
Well, 4 verts is a different story for sure. But I almost think like you're using that in most cases to like you look at him, you bump it to him, even if you're next level, but you're typically not throwing it. But yeah, he can run it, and if he's open, he'll catch it, and yeah, sure. The usage that come out was good, and also I'll say this: I believe Mercedes Lewis is on the field more often than Gerald Everett, which man, we had a little praise for that Gerald Everett signing, and this is certainly not going to be the big Gerald Everett point, but Gerald Everett sucks. I was very happy to see that there was no Gerald Everett.
Yep.
Very little Gerald Everett.
To give you a little bit of credit, it's like a dagger concept, for instance. You're not going to want to throw. You're usually not throwing the that's like a clear out route by the time.
That's what I'm saying. It's it usually serves just to clog up the middle of the field so you can open up the thing that's coming underneath it.
Yep. Anyway, let's move on. I think we've covered this game. We haven't. Let me actually one last point to this game, just on the emotional side of things. I haven't talked a lot on Blue Sky. I haven't posted a ton. I couldn't even watch. I mean, that game was heartbreaking. As just as a fan, and like I couldn't even watch. Thankfully, I had like Friendsgiving that night, so it didn't matter as much. But I couldn't watch the rest of the football slate. For instance, I needed a break from football. The Bears, if the Bears don't have anything on the line for the season, I'm fine watching us lose. Like 2022 was it? I was fine watching that tank season because I know what to expect. But when we have stuff like there is so much on the line to me in this season, it does become a little heartbreaking and it hurts. So like. I'm going to just say that loss hurt, I think, more than the Commies loss, in my opinion. I can see them, but having those, though.
Oh, Jesus.
4 weeks apart. Like,
come on.
What is it, 4 weeks apart? Just is killer. That's all I'm saying.
Hurt more than. Okay. I want to say my thing on this because I was already going to say it. I've been trying to make this joke like at work, at the beginning of this podcast, we went in a different direction. And at this point, it's not even a joke. And it's certainly not helping that I'm proportioning it so much. But what I wanted to say was, this is my perspective on it. That was a great Bears win. Packers 20, Bears 19. That is a hell of a win. Only losing by 1 to the Packers. That's incredible.
Said that you're taking a lot of like moral victories off of this game because I know also the Caleb
part of it. It's not a moral victory. It's if anything, I'm being like a cuck here.
Okay.
Only losing by 1 to the Packers is so much better than usual. Thank God. It could have been so much worse.
I was expecting like a 35-0 loss. Not 35-0, but you know what I mean. We talked on the episode we didn't publish.
Your official prediction was 35-3. Mine was 27-15. Yep. Close to the pin, baby.
Yeah. That's where I was at though as a Bears fan. No optimism.
So yeah, there is that aspect, and it's like it is of course heartbreaking. 5-5 beating the Packers after that game, even if it was unlikely, you would have been thinking, okay, we're in this. We're only a game behind the Packers, and we have the head-to-head. Like we're in this for sure. Let's build on this. It helps me a little bit to know that even if they had come back and won, or even if they had won, had they made that kick, it helps me a little bit to know they still weren't going to make the playoffs. It solidifies it. It of course sucks. The other thing that sucks is seeing Matt LaFleur on the sidelines complaining, getting so mad about stuff all game long. Seeing Jordan Love on the sideline, watching them watch that kick. The euphoria that was taken away from me is the main thing that I care about. I could have seen the Bears celebrating. I could have seen Caleb celebrating his great last drive that ended with a game-winning kick. And I could have seen Jordan Love be sad. And more than anything, just based on that game, I wanted to see Matt LaFleur get really mad. Like really mad because he was already mad that entire game. That got taken away from me. That sucks. But I got over it pretty quickly just for the reasons I said. Like, again, I don't – if we only finish a Packers win away from making the playoffs, I'll change my tune. I don't think that's going to happen.
I think there's something to be said, though, if we play the Packers close, right, and you win that game, now you need to go like 500 probably over the next set of games to make it to the playoffs, and you just showed that you could beat the Packers, right? So you feel pretty good about maybe beating the Seahawks and maybe beating the Vikings once, right? So there's something to be said. Where do you steal that last win to make the playoffs? Now it's. I mean, it feels officially over. I don't see how we go.
I hate that type of thing. I
know.
I know that you're a little bit supporting what I'm saying, but like it's not about like we might sweep the Lions, we might sweep the Vikings, we might. In fact,
to be clear,
maybe if we were at home, we'd probably be favorites over the 49ers if Purdy's still hurt.
I don't think we need to. Yeah, Purdy's still hurt. I don't think we need to get into how the rest of the season is going to go. What I'm trying to say is, to be clear, my heartbreak doesn't even come off just the playoffs, and that it's the idea that this year's season was going to be the season that we were going to see some fun things. Being in the back of my head, not thinking about that forefront. More so, the thing that hurts the most is having expectations, some, right? Doesn't matter what they were, and then seeing us come this close to beating the Packers finally, right? Having Caleb have his first game, have a comeback drive against the Packers, having that much hope in the background, knowing, man, they could still really this up because I had no faith, but still knowing that there's that hope and then having that, as you said, it was deflating. As you said, having that euphoria taken away from you. That's so deflating.
That's what it is. I'm with that, but it's the lack of euphoria. But otherwise, I was even keeled in the first place. You know what I mean? Like it's not like I got any further down. It's just that I understood what got taken away from me. But I was still able to watch some football, and damn, that Bengals Chargers game! I'm so glad I'm still able to watch football because that was maybe game of the season for me.
Before we get to the Vikings, one last quick point. I think it says something about being a Bears fan and the hurt that we've gone through in our lives. That before the Patriots game, I skied out something about how I don't feel good about this. I know I shouldn't not feel good about this. Like it's the Patriots, we should be able to beat the Patriots, right? But I have a bad feeling for some reason, and then the Bears go up and back up that bad feeling I have. Then to go into that situation where it looks like things are going to be good and still having a bad feeling, right? I didn't skeet this one out, but obviously I still had a bad feeling about what was going on. And then that coming true, right? Even though I had some hope, I'm like, they're going to mess this up, man. I know they're going to mess this up. And then they mess it up. And it's like, and to come back every week, like Stockholm Syndrome. It's just Stockholm Syndrome at this point.
Oh, I also got to say another thing that made me feel a little bit better about it is that the Packers at one point were plus 280 live on DraftKings. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I'm a Bears fan, but come on.
You did live bet the Packers. I remember you saying you were going to. I probably going to stop betting anything Bears game related. Maybe start betting against them just to like make the losses feel better. But let's get into the Vikings real quick. Let's shift gears.
Speaking of betting against the Bears,
yeah,
I'm gonna say this, and usually I say predictions for the end. I'm still gonna say predictions for the end, but let's explain why or why not my Bears plus 3.5 bet for, I would say, triple the units that I usually put on a game is bad.
So you want to start off with let's start off with their defense because that's the fun part, right? You want to start off with Flores?
Yeah, let me you're going to be trying to take us to school a little bit, and I don't want that much detail. So here's what we know about Flores. The very high level is that he is the blitz happiest coordinator in the league by a wide margin. I don't know if this is still true, but he also dropped 8 last year, more than any coordinator in the NFL. It's still true. Not surprising. He also,
at least it was the last I checked their defense.
He also the personnel changes, and I gotta say, versus last year, you know, my dumbass, I took the Titans to be a bigger threat than the Vikings in the wins draft. But at the same time, I thought the personnel changes that they made were really good. They lost Daniil Hunter, but they brought in Van Ginkel, uh, Grenard, who I think is just straight up better than Daniil Hunter, honestly. And then they ended up late in the offseason adding Stephon Gilmore to the back end. All I have to say, those pieces, especially Van Ginkel, is so freaking multiple and all the things he can do. It has allowed Flores, in my understanding, to do a lot more crazy shit behind those blitzes or those looks that he'll present and play off of that, and you don't know who's dropping, basically.
You don't have a lot of guys who are like crazy and saying all. He has basically no all-stars, it almost feels like. But you have a lot of guys that you can trust to do multiple roles. How would I put this? You have a lot of Leonard Floyd's almost, right? Where it's like, hey, if I want to drop you, I could drop you. If I want to rush you, you're probably not the best rusher, but you'll rush, right? Like I can use you.
Van Ginkel and Metellus. I'm not going to keep cutting you off. Van Ginkel and Metellus, their safety nickel hybrid are the two best examples of I will do whatever the hell with them. You're not going to know what those two are going to do. And then Ivan Pace, the inside linebacker, is like another pretty good example of that.
But I bring up the edge with like Leonard Floyd because they also do a lot of sim pressures. They do a lot of, and
right.
If you want, I could start getting into some of this schematically what they do. So like one thing they do a ton is hot droppers, right? What do I mean by a hot dropper? It's sort of a new concept.
Sounds sexy.
Yeah, it's very sexy. Essentially, if I'm showing you a blitz, right, or if I even do blitz, right? So either I'm sending a sim pressure, showing a blitz, bringing back, or I'm sending a blitz, but I'm still dropping some guys. I'm showing something. I'm going to want to. A lot of times, what you see is like what's it called, a fire blitz, where you basically have 3 under 3 on top. He doesn't do that as often. He does more exotic drops, so he'll do like a hot dropper cover zero look, right? Where essentially we know where your hots are. We've studied you enough to know where your hots are. I'm going to drop a defensive lineman into that hot so that as I'm sending an overloaded pressure look onto one side where you've got 3 on 4, you can't block this up. We know you can't, right? You can't throw the hot. We've got a free rusher. You got to hesitate to look for another option. You're screwed. That's one thing they do a lot.
I'll say this really quick. I'm sorry, we got to break you up every once in a while.
That was the end of it.
I've expressed it a little. Flores, not skepticism. All the flowers. He's definitely the best defensive coordinator in the NFL. I have expressed to you a little bit of skepticism. The one thing that's genius. In fact, it's not so much genius. It's something that I feel like you and I probably both were like, why don't they just do that? We probably could have both thought that like 10 years ago. Why don't they just do that? Well, they're doing it. A team is finally doing it. That's a great idea. Cover the hot route on the blitz, of course.
The other thing too is he blitzes a lot with, and I think he blitzes a lot with like cover 4 behind it. So typically you're thinking like cover 1, cover 3, but what they're doing is they're trying to limit the explosives because they're still very bad at limiting explosives. Kind of comes with the territory of saying, hey, you're still running man, right? But you're running man with deep priority. So they're running cover 4 behind their blitzes, and that's very different than say like cover 1 or cover 3. And that also gives the quarterback's take an extra second, but on top of it, they're expecting you to dump it off right away and rally up. So I'm looking at, like, you're looking at Swift and you're saying, okay, Swift, you need to make a guy miss if you get a dump off on something like that, because they are looking to make you dump it off. They are doing a lot of what like Tampa 2 philosophy of, hey, dump it short, we'll rally up and tackle. But instead, they're bringing heat behind it and running cover 4. On top of that, I bring up Tampa 2, because another thing they like to do on third downs is they like to run NTTs, and they rotate into NTT. So NTT is a non-traditional Tampa. What do I mean by that? The whole defender is not your Mike linebacker. It's going to be a safety that rotates down in the hole. You could have a corner then rotate up to cover 2 where the safety was, etc. They'll run that as like a coverage contour, right? Or like a coverage shell, but maybe not underneath, and either bring pressure or drop 8 into it and drop 8 into an NTT to make the quarterback hold the ball longer because they're not expecting that, and basically hope to get home in time or make the quarterback throw into congested lanes. On top of it, he does all of this out of the same damn look. That's the thing that makes it so brilliant, and that's the thing where you need these players that can do whatever, because I'm showing you like amoeba front, so let me get into things. Very shifting fronts, right? So a little bit different each time, but we're still
amoeba fronts. They're just all being crazy. That's all. Anyway,
a lot of times too, he's mugging up. He's showing double mug. He's showing blitz pressures, etc., and dropping out of that into whatever coverage that I just mentioned. And that makes it difficult because you can't do your pre-snap reads because it's all post-snap rotations, right? And maybe not post-snap back-end rotation, but post-snap underneath rotation a lot, right? So you'll see a lot of like rotational stats. They might not match this as much because he might be showing like a too high look and staying in too high, but underneath everything is rotating and you don't know where you're going. And this is why last year we said, after Fields had a couple of good games, like, oh man, and mind you, he's evolved a good bit this year. Some of the things I've mentioned weren't there last year. But this is why last year when we talked about Justin Fields, we said this is the game where Fields is going to look really bad. And that's why I lost faith in Fields after I saw, oh, hey, we verified it. He did look bad. You're a 3-year vet, though. I needed you to prove me wrong, right? If you can't prove me wrong by now, shoot, you have a weakness that I don't think you'll be able to get rid of for a few years. Caleb's is a rookie. I don't expect him to do well. I think this is going to be his Achilles heel. He can't really do much pre-snap because he's going to be seeing the same thing over and over again. They're relying on the fact that he's trying to read them out pre-snap and then rotating into things that are going to cause him trouble. And he hasn't gotten that post-snap acumen yet. I don't think fully. Like, you see it sometimes, but it's not, he's a rookie. He shouldn't have. It seems like it's going to be a rough game there. That's unless you plan for it. You have to truly have answers as the OC, and that's where Thomas Brown comes in.
Yeah, so here's what I think is interesting. So you and I got into a conversation about Flores, and I got to add, it's great for you that you don't need to go to Pornhub.com or even bother your wife sometimes, because you'll always have the mental images of Brian Flores' defense.
It's great. I get off to that shit, man. I mean, here's the thing, and there is nothing that I think the thing that I love the most, obviously, when it comes to football in the NFL, team building gets me. Oh God, give me contracts and let me figure out how GMs are handling their contracts and handling their cap and everything like that. And I understand contract structures and etc. That gets me off a good bit. Talking about draft and draft value, that gets me off a good bit too. But nothing gets me off more than being able to look at somebody evolve the game. And right now, a lot of the evolution in the game is on the defensive side.
Yeah.
Offenses
this is why
stay pretty stagnant.
This is why I've tried on several occasions to get you on the FBI watch list. They're not taking it seriously yet, but I think the more podcasts that we make like this, the closer you'll get to that list. Yeah. I'm very scared of you. I don't like your sick love of team building and defensive schemes.
I'm a dirty little football sicko.
What I wanted to say though is, so we talked about this before, and you were again giving Flores his much deserved flowers, and my point was, but it's gonna be beaten. It's not like as lovely as this all is, there are weaknesses. We can do stuff to those weaknesses. Now, the best thing to do, anecdotally, watching far more Vikings than almost anybody in the league besides the Bears, I feel like at this point. Except maybe the Bengals. There's been a few teams that keep coming on like night games, but anecdotally, and also maybe contradictory, the way to beat them is to do two things. One of them anybody can do: hold the ball. As the quarterback, hold the ball for a while. Time to throw should actually be a little higher, in my opinion. You're going to disagree with this, but let me give one. Sure, you can do that, but also get straight to your hot read. They might pick that shit.
That's the issue there. But continue.
So that's thing number one for me is do hold the ball. You do need a second to figure out what you're saying. You just do, because if you figure it out, stuff's going to come open. Exhibit A is that Thursday night game against Matthew Stafford. So thing number 2 is be a really smart veteran quarterback. We are capable of doing one of those things. We cannot, no matter how hard we try, we cannot make Caleb into a smart veteran quarterback yet. He's a smart quarterback.
We'll get there.
We think he's not Matthew Stafford.
Yep.
Do you disagree with what I said? I mean, there's that Stafford game. There's the Goff game was a little different.
Pocket manipulation is going to matter. I agree with you, but pocket manipulation then matters, and being able to know when it's time to just give up on a play and either run and extend it, right, or dirt it is important, and that's a lot of that's going to come with experience. So that also comes with the veteran aspect of it. So yeah, I would completely agree. 100%.
Here's another hopeful point that I have. So you said that a lot of these hot droppers are based on
a lot of hots, do we? By the way, I don't think we give hots as an answer as much as we give like side adjustments, which I guess are hots in an extent, and then answers and other.
I guess this is somewhat what I'm getting to in a way, though. It's based on a lot of film study or a lot of understanding of route concepts, what they run out of certain things, what this concept's going to be, and therefore where the hot is. Well, we got a new offensive coordinator with only 1 game's worth of Chicago Bears game film. It might be a little difficult. The other thing is, based on last game, we were running with the quarterback a bit, which is a great way to beat Brian Flores' defense if you're able to do it. We were utilizing DJ more in the short game, which I think we need to continue to do against the Vikings. I think there's a lot of things. Again, the fact that the best thing to be is a smart veteran quarterback against the Vikings is not great, but I think there's a lot of little things that are working in our favor.
I would agree.
Not in a way that's going to lead to some explosive, crazy offense, but I think in a way that can get us some chunk plays and can sustain some drives a little bit more than I think the general public might think. That's my take here.
If we were coming in with Waldron, I would have predicted us to score like 6 points. Since we're coming in with Thomas Brown and everything that you said, because I agree with every point. Actually, I forgot to mention with the hot droppers, I don't think that's going to be an issue with us in this game. It's going to be more so the fact that they're so unpredictable. That's the other thing too. They're incredibly unpredictable because they do everything so evenly in most situations. They don't have tendencies, right? So it's hard to know when they're going to do certain things to call against it. But it does come into, they also don't know the same with us to know when to call hot droppers, when to know when to call certain things. So it is really a game of, it's almost like a week 1 showdown, which helps both teams, right? But I think with the DJ Moore aspect of things, because that's where I was going to go, like if you're going to run cover 4 and drop and rally and come up to tackle, we have enough playmakers that we can hopefully break a few of those, right? On top of that, I do think we have enough if the weapons are used correctly, we have enough weapons that like, hey, Keenan Allen can probably beat out a hot dropper to a spot, right? If he needs to come in off a slant and know how to work there on a sit route and know how to work that and get into the open space.
Yeah.
It's a defensive lineman. So like, we're not talking about but it goes back again to use your personnel correctly and you will win this game. I think. Actually,
KYP, Stacey King, KYP.
So I will say
you don't know what I meant.
I know
Stacey
King.
What is KYP?
Know your personnel. I would assume. I'm guessing. What is it? Know your players.
Wow, you got it. I just thought it was. No, you got it right. I was just like,
KYC is know your customer, so I figured it was.
You brushed it off, and now I realize you brushed it off because it was annoying, not because you didn't know it. So I was trying to catch you.
I mean, that was all guess. I didn't know it off just knowing it.
Close enough.
Yeah,
I've watched one Bulls game this season. I'm not gonna try to pretend to be the Bulls knower here.
So we've talked about the defensive tendencies, which are not what they try to show at an even split, right? And we've talked about how you answer that. I don't know if there's much else other than Caleb, you got to play sharp. Like, you can't be playing how you played in like the beginning of the Washington game, right? Or the end of the Texans game when you're feeling the heat. Play like you played other times you felt the heat, because he's been good against the blitz, right? You play like that, you're great. You play like the other games where he's been bad.
This is what gets a little weird. This is what gets a little weird about it. Sorry, big burp.
Been a little gassy.
Oh man, the burps keep coming. The burps keep coming. Well, it's been an issue for me lately.
Maybe
because the big farts I keep blowing at you.
Oh, they're nasty. I had a few I couldn't trust earlier today. Anyway,
I've had some big tummy aches lately.
People, I feel bad for anybody listening to this. Sorry if these jokes are crude to you.
Oh God, we had a great conversation about poop before we got on here, and we weren't able to talk about it. Anyway,
humor is the best humor. Go on.
I think what's kind of interesting is that a lot of the things that Caleb is, man, how do I say this? Because I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with the way that Caleb plays that can't beat the Vikings. Because, he's been great against the blitz, but it's been getting the ball out quickly.
He's also had some bad games against the blitz, though, too. Like, I think he's been even about it.
I should say he has shown an acumen against the blitz. He has shown he knows how to handle it.
If he's in that mindset, yes, I agree.
Sure.
I think he just needs to have the right answers and know what his answers are well, really, right?
Right. So I guess the point is, and it goes back to, again, I say a lot of the time you do want to hold the ball and manipulate the pocket, of course. Mm-hmm. You don't necessarily want to beat the blitz in the exact way that Caleb has beat the blitz when he's done it, which has usually been very quickly, because I do think Caleb is going to need to take a second and make sure he is seeing this correctly. This is almost completely contradictory to the things that we've been saying that Caleb needs to do. I think he needs to take a second in many cases. And I think the fact that he has not been taking, or the fact that he has been taking a second to our detriment, might be somewhat beneficial, in that if he understands he needs to dodge the blitz, something's going to break open. When usually what happens is he takes a second and then he gets sacked because nothing broke open, because there's nothing really that crazy about the coverage. If that makes sense. This is galaxy brained, but I'm saying, you know what I'm saying.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. You also have to have the answers, though, to block it up, if that's the case, right? Because you can't beat the blitz by holding the ball. So you need, and this will rely on your running backs handling protections, because if you got a free runner coming down, that's probably not a free runner specifically, right? Because a free runner means running back's got somebody else already. But if you got a runner coming down and barreling down on Caleb, you're hoping that your running back understands what his assignments are. On top of that, you need to also formationally understand, hey, they could be bringing it from anywhere and overloading any side. We won't know pre-snap. How do we give the answers to that post-snap? I would expect a lot of H-back, right? So when I say H-back, I don't mean halfback in the sense of a running back. I mean like an H tight end, right? So somebody who's lined up behind. Check. Right, a Kyle Juszczyk almost. He plays also an halfback, but like somebody who's lined up specifically behind like your tackle in like the C gap.
I have much better historical references that you won't understand, but Kyle Juszczyk is the best modern example.
Yes, it is a good example. And then having that player understand, hey, if pressure comes on my side, I'm going to be blocking it up. I might become an answer for him. If pressure doesn't come my side, I don't see a dropper, or I might be looking for work on the other side, right? And having that, because if you do it, say you do a tight end, you're like, people are going to talk about like, oh, you need to chip and stuff. Well, that doesn't work if they don't bring pressure to that side, right? All of a sudden I'm free. You have to have your guys positioned like formationally aligned in a way that they can help out either side to understand post snap what's going to happen, and then go to that and act accordingly. It comes down to the way that with Flores' defense is who has the pen last. Flores wants to have the pen last. I'm the last one to make that decision during the play. And because of that, you won't have answers because I made that decision. Your decision now falls into my hands because you've made it before me. I've now rotated. I rotated exactly where I wanted to, game match, whatever. Checkmates. Game set match is what I was going for, and then I wanted to say checkmate, and I just mixed them together. Anyway, so
King me.
Having kingmates.
Yahtzee.
So having multiple players in the backfield, I think a lot of like say 21 personnel, or even 11, but you've got your tight end lined up almost in the backfield, as for example, like Cole Kmet lined up as an H. Stuff like that is going to help give flexibility to the blocking assignments. Do I trust them to do this, considering what I've seen from our backs and even our tight ends on blocking up assignments? No. And that's why, while I agree with you, I don't know if the Bears can do this, because I don't know if Caleb is going to be able to hold on to the ball without having somebody screaming down his face. And that is a personnel issue, because we don't have the guys that know how to do protections in the backfield.
So I guess I'll just disagree a bit in that purely from just the offensive line standpoint, I think we've got our best 5 on the field, and I think these 5 have been pretty good. They've cleaned up. The Texans game feels like it was
losing our tackles.
Genuinely, it feels like it was 2 years ago.
Yeah,
it was like 6 weeks ago.
Losing our tackles was a big deal the last couple of weeks too, and I think having them back is such a massive improvement, and I think we saw that.
Yeah. So point being, I think each one of these individual offensive linemen is pretty good, and I think they're playing pretty well together. This particular projected starting 5.
Holman Shelton's actually had a season run at like resurrection.
Sheldon's good.
Sheldon's been playing really well the last half of the season. I think Bears fans need to.
Braxton and Darnell are both outstanding.
Yeah. I don't think the offensive line has been the biggest blame as much as it's been the protection rules. We have such a bad time understanding our protection rules. How much of that is on Caleb? How much of that is on the backs? How much of that is on the offensive line understanding the protect? I don't think they're getting beat though one-on-one. When they know what they need to block, they're fine.
I hate it when you refer people to other YouTube people, but I'm gonna be hypocritical and say it's because this guy's already so famous. I would recommend you read Selac's Tuesday article about what goes wrong for the Bears.
Has he gotten to this point?
Huh?
Because I've been thinking about this for a while.
The point is that the offensive line may not grade poorly, but when Caleb is pressured, I'm not going to repeat it exactly. Go read the article.
Okay.
Not you. I'm saying.
I was going to say this is why he's my spirit animal.
The gist is when pressure does happen, Caleb has no chance. It doesn't happen that frequently, but when it does happen, he has no chance. It's basically that.
It's multiple. That's the issue, and that's a good point. That's a different point than what I was talking about. When pressure happens, we see multiple pressures, or it's free release and
free runner is a huge one.
Yeah, we got free runner, or we get multiple, and that's
that. He points out 3 things. I think it's definitely free runner. He probably points out multiple. It's all sorts of stuff like that.
Yep.
And
Texans game is a good example. Because I think the Texans game, people are like, oh my God, that means he got pressured on like 70% of his dropbacks. It's like, no, he actually only got pressured on 30%, but there are so many pressures on multiple dropbacks.
Every single one of the times he was pressured, he was almost certainly about to be sacked.
Yeah, because he had no way to escape. You can't escape multiple pressure. It's hard. Unless they both come around from the outside and you can step up.
So I'm mentally tallying things in my head about how we can beat them. We've been going long on this, but this is extremely interesting. Flores just breeds interesting stuff. It's not interesting to you, I'm sure. You, the viewer, I'm sorry. This is very interesting to us.
It's a fun conversation for us. You brought up a really good point, though, is run. And this is where it comes to those overloaded sides. If they're overloading a side, that means there's going to be free lanes. Caleb, you are going to need to, if the pressure is coming, you are going to need to make a decision quick and go. It might be out the outside. It might be through the middle. It might be anywhere. But if they bring a lot on one side, you got the other side. And they might be having hot drops right there. You might only get like 2 or 3, but you need to go. You have to prevent negatives. Because what Flores is looking for is he's trying to beat you by having explosive defensive plays. And if you don't give him any explosive defensive plays, it's a lot easier to beat them because they're also more willing to give up explosive offensive plays. So don't negate those by taking the explosive defensive ones.
Right. And he will be sacked more times than we want. I would imagine he'll be sacked minimum 4 times. It's truly, if he's only sacked 4 times, I think the offense will have a great game.
Yeah. That's against Flores. That's considering what we've seen too. We also taking that into account. Pretty good. It would be
it's also
a good turnout.
It's worth mentioning, and I always end up stopping down for this exact part, so I'm not going to stop down for it. I'm going to blindly kind of remember based off last time. So while the Vikings bring the most pressure in the NFL, they're only like 5th or so in like hurry rate. Sometimes they don't get home. A lot of what leads to their success is not so much that they get home or even get a pressure. It's that weird things are coming from weird angles, and therefore guys are dropping that you're not expecting to drop, and that's what hurts. It's not really the sack taking that's necessarily going to hurt them. If the offensive line communicates, I don't have that much doubt that they can block. And again, I have a little faith in the offensive line to communicate properly. The thing about the Vikings is they have identified a lot of personnel that fits what they do exactly correctly, but they don't have a game record at all. In fact, who's their best defensive player? It's Grenard or Van Ginkel.
I'll put it to you like this.
If Van Ginkel is your second best defensive player, that is so beatable.
So they are top 5, I think, in PFF grades for run defense. But in DVOA, they are 1 in both run defense and pass defense.
In grades,
what's up?
I find this run defense, and again, this is anecdotal, I find it to be a little fake. I think it's a lot of guys in the box a lot of times. A good quarterback, a good offensive scheme is going to negate that. I don't think they're inherently good at run defense.
Yeah, it's a numbers game, I think, with them. And it comes inherently with the scheme that they're running. But what I was trying to get to was they're number 1 in run defense grading. So that means that their players are also playing well as in DVOA, they're number 1, which means there are results from it. But in pass defense, they're bottom half of the league in pass rush, in PFF grading, as well as bottom half of the league in coverage grading. And I think they're really low on coverage grading. It makes sense. They all their starting corners are out. Right.
Yeah. But the way to beat them is via passing plays, passing play calls.
Well, hold on. They're still number 1 though in pass DVOA, which basically means the players are messing up, right? But the coaching and the scheme is making up for it. It goes back to the point we were talking about with the Bears a few weeks ago when Sam Monson brought up Bears defense isn't grading all that well, but they're performing really well, which usually is a scheme thing, right? Same thing here. Bring that up, but on the passing side of things specifically, they are scheming it up so well, and it's going to be a game of it's a coaching matchup. This is so much a coaching matchup. If you don't have the quarterback who is that veteran, right, which is what you need to do the first way of beating them. We talked about the second way of beating them, which is understanding where, like, being able to block up things and communicating. I don't think we're going to be able to do that. That comes back to the first thing if you have a rookie, right? If you're able to block it up and have a rookie, then you can then hold on to the ball, I think, a little bit longer. Third way of beating them is having a running quarterback. I think Caleb can probably exploit them there a little bit. And then we've also talked about the fourth way. We have playmakers that when they run those NTTs, we will get it underneath, and there's a chance that they can still get an explosive off of it. They don't rally and tackle. I take my players over their players because they don't have any studs. So I think those last 2 ways are the ways that our offense is going to be able to beat this defense. The first 2, I agree with you, holding onto the ball is going to answer, but I don't trust them I don't trust either Caleb to be able to work the pocket the way that he needs to, even though he's shown he can do it. I just know that there are going to be games where he's shown that There are games where he's shown he's very good at it. There are games where he's shown he's not great at it.
I don't know what kind of game. His default is to escape the pocket.
Yep.
And run towards the sideline, which
I don't know
is not ideal, but it could work.
Yep. I don't know what kind of game we're gonna get. That's my thing there. I don't trust the communication because we haven't seen the communication all year, unless Thomas Brown somehow fixes that up. Who knows? There is a chance that all that gets fixed and they beat them that way. Right? I think my prediction is they're going to beat them in the ways that I mentioned, which is Caleb knowing when to take off and then getting it to our playmakers underneath when we can and having them hopefully bust out a play.
I'm with that. I'll add this. I think an evergreen answer to the blitz that I don't think Flores answers particularly well is a well-timed screen, specifically in this game, a halfback screen. I think a couple of those could lead to some explosives as well. And I could be eating so much crow, and I'll do it without reservation. But I think that these 5 offensive linemen do know how to communicate and will, for the most part, be able to sort things out.
I agree, actually, and I'm going to eat a lot of crow. I don't have as much against our offensive line that I think most fans do, because I think when healthy, they've looked fine, and honestly, our depth has been good. We just had gotten so deep into the depth that it's like, who the hell has that much? No one has that kind of depth in the NFL, guys. Come on. Coming back to it. What I'm getting at here is I agree with you there. It's the backs. I've seen Swift do some really dumb shit in pass pro, and that's what scares me. I've seen other tight ends mess things up, and that's what scares me. And those are the guys that I think when you're overloading a side, those are the guys that need to understand and see things and react post snap to help block things up. That's what scares me. Less so than the interior group of linemen, considering who's starting. Yeah, they had some communication issues recently, but those were backups that got their first game.
That's a good point. I think one thing I would do is dial up. Actually, no, not even dial up. Keep the same halfback split as last time, and Roshan is more of your third and long guy, which is what he was against the Packers. I don't want Swift having to make decisions in pass pro.
I'll take some 12 personnel, though, and have Swift go out. Or 21 personnel. Have Swift in the backfield. We got split back, right? You have Roshan there to clog things up. Maybe even he goes out and Swift stays in just to give some confusion. But you have Swift go out for a pass because if they go into, they go into that NTT, they want to rally up and tackle. Or they go up in the quarters, right, off their blitz, and they want to rally up and tackle. You're getting Swift the ball in space. That would be nice. I just cannot trust him at all in pass pro. I can't.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Let's. The other side is also kind of interesting for once. So let's get to that really quick because
I have less to say there. A lot less to say there.
We talked way too much. Yeah,
it's all good though.
We'll keep it relatively short. The Vikings offense has been good. It has been a good functional offense by and large for most of the season. Most people would say that Sam Darnold has been extremely good. I would say that Sam Darnold has been fine.
I would say he's been inconsistent, and he's had a lot of really highs and a lot of really lows.
The really lows, besides, I would say probably this Jacksonville game,
he's had a good bit of time all over the place.
Right. So the real lows, I would say, due to sheer luck, are not as visible. They're still there.
Do you remember that whole rant we had about, hey, I don't care if Caleb throws it into a bad situation because chances of an interception can be so much lower than, a fumble or a sack.
There is a tipping point to that where we do kind of want them to stop doing it.
I think Darnold's at that tipping point. However, he has seen the other side of luck. The variance has been on his side. So while the Jacksonville game, he's finally, got punished for it. Not a lot of other games.
And they still won that game. So here's the other end of my Bears plus 3.5 bet is, when you're lucky, you could be lucky all year long. There's no particular reason to think that this will be the game where he stops getting lucky. But odds are, if you keep, doing dumb shit, eventually it's going to catch up with you. So I got to say, I think Sam Darnold is pretty likely to toss us a couple.
I mean, there's a chance. I can't get any of his stats to load on PFF for some reason. Sam Darnold's just not coming up. I think they might be down. Oh, here we go. No, he's not coming up, but the Vikings are. I can look that up on something else, but I'm not going to. Maybe FTN.
The run game has been fine.
They don't use it a lot, as much as they probably should, though.
Well, so what they do is get Sam Darnold into situations where play action is always a credible option. And when they do it, it's effective enough, but it's not explosive. This year, pending injury, we will play Cam Akers 3 times this year. And Akers has been taking a big load off of Aaron Jones the last few weeks because Jones is dealing with a little bit of something injury-wise.
He's been dealing with it all season, hasn't he? He's had like nagging injuries. I have him in fantasy.
He has, yeah, but I mean, the last few weeks is the only time the Vikings have actually taken a little bit of action against it, carries-wise. I'm not super afraid of their run game. I mean, we're going to give up plays because that's just what the Bears have been doing this season. But in my mind, I think we can get Sam Darnold into some dropback situations that the Vikings don't want to be in. I think we have the personnel to cover their receivers. I feel pretty good about our defense against Sam Darnold. If Sam Darnold wants to beat us, like, fuck me, whatever. But I'm not going to commit. I'm not going to predict good things for Sam Darnold against the Bears.
The issue is, though, I worry that Justin Jefferson will beat us, right?
I mean, now we're getting.
Yeah, but this is where I go back to, like, if Kyler Gordon's on him, there needs to be some kind of bracket coverage, right? I don't know if I want Tyreek Stevenson on him if he's outside. I really don't. And then JJ would be great. JJ doesn't follow, right? I think he basically plays one side and that side only in our defense. So I got to then rely on Terrell Smith, which then do I want to also bracket as well, right? I worry that it's not Darnold that beats us. It is Justin Jefferson that beats us on top of you have TJ Hawkinson to worry about. They also have fantastic weapons. Let's be clear here. They've got TJ Hawkinson, who came back from his injury with a great game. Also have him in fantasy. It's great. I think
if Justin Jefferson, I got to stop you there. If Justin Jefferson got hurt, we would say that they have below average weapons. So as a result, I cannot say they have fantastic weapons.
Well, they lose their number one.
Justin Jefferson and a lovely. No, because if we lost our number one, people would still say pretty good weapons.
Because we got Rome. I think we've got I would agree with you. I think their weapons make more sense together, though, than ours, or at least they've used them correctly, I should say, actually. Let's do that.
I'm just saying.
They use them correctly.
Jefferson's running the show here.
Yes. Jordan Addison is still a very good number 2. And then you also, I disagree with you.
I'm being semantic. I don't think he's a very good number 2. I think he's a fine number 2.
And then I think Hawkinson's a good, like, upside tight end, right? I would put him up above Cole Kmet, in my opinion. And
Hawkinson, you said?
Yeah.
Of course, he's better than Kmet, of course.
And then I am blanking on other players, but they have good role players. I think everywhere else.
That's the thing. You're blanking for decent reason. Their number 3 is Jalen Naylor. Their number 4 is Brandon Powell. Josh Oliver, their other tight end, who's done a little bit of stuff, might be hurt, might not play. And then Aaron Jones. I mean, Aaron Jones loves to kill us, but I don't know, man.
The argument's always been, though, Justin Jefferson lifts you up so much on his own. So yes, I agree. Fair. If Justin Jefferson goes down, that group is worse. But with Justin Jefferson,
he's not going to go. He's almost certainly not going to go down. That's not the point. I'm just saying. This is not a bunch of weapons that I'm super concerned with being able to beat any of the Bears defenders in a one-on-one situation, even though that's not really how defense works. I think you have ways to shade stuff towards Jefferson, and by all means, Sam Darnold, throw the ball to Jordan Addison, and let's see what happens. I don't know. I'm not, and also
I would bracket,
Jefferson,
I would shift, I would do everything I can to put as much attention over there because that's who I think is going to beat us if we get beat in the air.
I don't even consider Jefferson traditionally a Bears killer in the same way that I would say that like Devontae Adams was always a huge Bears killer. The only time he really killed us was when Jalen Jones was stuck on him all game. Other than that, I mean, he's going to get his, but it's never been anything insane. So I don't know.
I have to look back at it. I can't tell you like just off the top of my head if that's right or not.
Also, if he wants to kill us, by all means, score me some touchdowns in fantasy for once, Justin. I could use them, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, touchdowns are. It's more the yards. Touchdowns are volatile on a receiving side of things. We all know that when it comes to.
Well, get me 150 yards for once, Justin. I'm getting sick of this. I don't think he's going to do that.
All right. Be a naysayer. You know what? Forget it. Be a naysayer. Just do it. It's fun. Darnold, yes, I would agree. I don't expect him to kill us, but if we do get killed, it's because Justin Jefferson's making Tyreek Stevenson look stupid. That's it. That was my point.
If he kills us, right, that's one part, and it's because I think the other thing is we weren't able to stop the run well enough to ever get them into credible drop back situation, or just they have to
obvious
drop back
passing situations.
Yes.
Obvious passing situations. Yep.
Which again
might happen considering our run defense.
Right. But when they have happened, it has not. It's been extremely mixed for Sam, and that's what I'm counting on.
I don't have much to say on this side of the ball, so I don't know if you have anything else. Because, like, to me, it's that. Just do that and find a way to not let Cam Akers and Aaron Jones kill you in the run. If Aaron Jones does, I get the points on fantasy. But try not to, which I desperately need since my team's been absolute. I've been talking up all the guys I got. No, my team's been absolute ass.
Listen, we talked more about the other side of the ball because it's A, more interesting, and B, a real wild card. But I think I don't know, man. I just kind of like the way that our defense matches up here. I don't think any one receiver is really going to kill us unless we trip and he runs and then jumps over a guy.
I think
KOC Christian Watson play.
I'm throwing this out there. Yes, I agree with you. Talent-wise, maybe not, except for Justin Jefferson. I think KOC does, and that's.
But that's the other thing that hasn't actually happened against the Bears under KOC.
No, it hasn't. Not in recent. I mean, here, let's look.
With a much, much better quarterback and the exact same skill group.
I don't remember what happened in 2023. Put up 29 points on us in 2022 in the last game, but we had nobody. And then also 29.
That was an intentional tank game with Nathan Peterman. I believe the Vikings may have scored a defensive touchdown.
Yep.
The other one was Jalen. The other one was Jalen Jones on Justin Jefferson, and we still were a oh god, I can't remember this. Amir Smith Marset dumbass play away from probably winning that game.
He only gave up last year against them 19 and 10 points. So yeah,
that's what I'm saying, man. I don't think KOC on his own has the answers.
Fair. It's a fair point. Bet the under. I mean, I was gonna say this anyway before when we were starting, but then it didn't come up because
I did my guess. I did my guess the spread or guess the spread and over under thing, and what I had was Vikings 2.5 and over under 41.
It's
and I believe it is 3.5 and 39.
Yep. 39 is a low.
Usually that would mean stay away. But I got some real Bears faith this week. I don't know. I'm being weird. I obviously telegraphed my prediction is going to be, but the over under I probably should have gone under and parlayed it, but I left it alone.
I probably actually at 39 now that I think about it.
It's a little low.
Take the alternate and parlay it, in my opinion. Take like a 6-point alternate on that. With the
yeah, 40, yeah. 45 it.
Yeah, 45 it, because I could see. So I think I'm ready to get into predictions. I don't know about you.
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm gonna say that there's something going around on the internet about Eberflus and one-score games. As I think you and I both know, one-score games are very much so luck a lot of times, and I think we've seen that. The Hail Mary and the thing, probably not so much luck on the Hail Mary.
Right.
It's definitely the
luck
coaching.
It's luck until you start breaking it down, and then it's like, this is a trend.
This is a trend, and this feels like coaching. However, I am going to say that the kick, even getting blocked and the penalty not getting called, as well as everything else that went into that game, leading to the loss, all the other plays that I mentioned, being kind of luck driven. I am going to say that we see the other side of luck. This is a one-score game, and the Bears do win. Now that I talked myself into a win after we've talked about this a good bit.
Well, give me some credit.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've talked myself as in we've talked. You've talked me into it as well. We've talked myself into a win. And I am going to go 2013, so that's still under, but I could see this going like 21-19, which is why I'm saying take the alternate line on that. So yeah, 2013.
Yeah, I think
a defensive touchdown's in there, by the way. I don't know if our offense scores all of that. I do think that Darnold jacks something up and we take it to the house.
Realistically, Caleb is going to struggle here. Again, it's the Stafford thing is that he was able to hold the ball in the pocket. Caleb probably cannot do that yet. He's going to hold the ball. He's going to try to get outside the pocket, and we'll see how that goes because there's probably going to be a guy coming off the edge that he's not expecting from Josh Metellus coming off nickel. So I'm going to go Vikings 26, Bears 10.
Yes. Yeah.
Fun. All right, Adam.
Is there another prediction by chance?
That was a great time for Adam to drop.
Yeah,
I'm joking.
I was looking
at time.
I did. Hold on. I completely missed what you said before because I noticed a little bit of a stuttering on our stream, and I was trying to check why. And yeah, I know why. It's a little bit of my network side, so I apologize if anyone's seeing a little bit of stuttering on our stream. I wasn't paying attention. I was trying to figure that out. Sorry, go on.
What's my bad. Did you hear my prediction?
I heard your prediction. I missed the everything. Somebody drops and something. I missed all that. All I heard was dropped. So I'm assuming there was a joke there because you were laughing and waiting for me to react, and I was just.
There's no joke.
Oh, all right. Well,
don't worry about it. Listen, do me a favor. Do the thing that I wanted you to do, and I'll make my real prediction because that is not my real prediction. If you can't do the thing I wanted you to do, it doesn't matter. But while I make my real prediction, no, I do. I do think that we're going to have enough wrinkles offensively. I think there's not enough to scout for Flores here. And I think that is going to make a bit of a difference offensively. We can get some explosives. I also think that maybe not a defensive touchdown, but some things that put us into really advantageous offensive situations. I think we can get a couple turnovers here. I'm going to say that Eberflus's one-score game record does not improve, though, because the Bears got this shit 23-13, baby.
Hey, 2-score win. Let's go. We'll see if that happens. Before we end, I have one last thing I want to bring up. A lot of talks about Eberflus, specifically how fans want us to lose so that Eberflus is guaranteed to lose his job. And here's what I'm going to say. I'm fine with tanking. I'm always fine with tanking when it comes to a team that needs to get a quarterback and needs a lot of things. I don't think we need as many things to really become competitive. I do think we do need coaching, so I would agree that keeping Flus would suck. But I can't. If we have the ability to make the playoffs, I think it comes back to what you said earlier this season. That's been ringing in my head. Kill us early, right? Like, take us out early. Because if you don't, there's a chance we figure things out and we go and we become that team in the playoffs, say, that nobody wants to face. And I think with what we showed against the Packers, considering how Packers team is a good team, the fact that it was that close is a really good sign. So I'm not going to sit here and say I want us to lose. And I'm not going to, everyone fans differently. I am not going to come at any fan for fanning differently than I am. But I personally think that I still want the season to become salvageable. So if we're able to win and make the playoffs, yeah. I'm just saying.
Well, I'm going to add very quickly. There's a logical fallacy there. If we start winning, it means that Eberflus is turning it around and possibly to a point where he deserves to keep his job. If we can get into the playoffs, or honestly even get to 9-8 and barely miss the playoffs, that means some stuff is turned around. We found a formula, and you're going to root against that? That doesn't really make any sense.
And I think that would probably lead to like Thomas
if Eberflus is going to lose his job. If Eberflus is going to lose his job, sorry, you're making a good point, but if he loses his job, it's going to be because we lost because Eberflus sucks. Why root against them? It's just going to happen anyway because the coach sucks that you want to get fired. It's all going to self-fulfill.
So if we do start winning, I think it's because Thomas Brown's done a really good job. At that point, you have your OC for next year. It also comes down to we would need to win those one-score games. Does Eberflus improve on some of his decisions? Which I will say on 2 of the one-score games that we've lost, at least in recent memory, those were maybe some luck, but a lot of it is there's coaching decisions there that led to that luck even being a factor, right? So that is kind of heartbreaking. And of course, you're going to look at that and say, well, Eberflus needs to leave because of that. And then also what we talked about with Caleb and being more aggressive. But I always come back to, is that also partially Caleb's fault? I don't know. I will say that Flus has shown he has a record of making quarterbacks look like they're not taking the risks that they should probably be taking. All that said is to say is, I do believe that somebody can learn on the job. I do believe that somebody can grow. So if we get to that point and we end up keeping Flus and Thomas Brown has shown it, well, it kind of suck. Well, I'd probably be asking, can we just please switch it up? That would be awesome. Yeah, most likely. But damn it, I want to see my Bears in the playoffs and get some wins. And that also might mean that there's some improvement and he does deserve his job. And that, hey, this might be okay. Because guess what? Just because you got and I think this is a lot of the reason why people want him gone is because there's that hot toy over there that's like, I want to play with that toy instead, Ben Johnson. Just because Shane Steichen does a great job with the Eagles and has the number 1 offensive line, right? Then goes to the Colts with a very good offensive line.
I'm sorry. We got a short week coming up after this against the Lions. Let's talk about Ben Johnson then, because we got a lot to say about Ben Johnson.
Yes, I'm just going to end it with this point. You don't know how a coach is going to do when they get there. And I think Shane Steichen did a great job his first year. His second year has not adjusted to the adjustments that he's been getting.
I saw, by the way, really quick, I know you want to sign off.
Yep.
I saw some people want the Colts to fire Steichen. Please do.
That
solves all of our problems. I know exactly who we hire if that happens.
There's OC. Yeah. Or as coach. Yeah. I mean, there's I would be at a coin flip there with Ben Johnson. I'm not trying to and really quickly, I'm not downplaying Ben Johnson. I know we've said that we're a little bit more critical, but it's not because we don't like him. We probably both agree there's the number 1 coaching candidate this cycle. It's just more so you don't have a guarantee. Guys are going to suck that you think are going to be great. Being a head coach is so hard to predict. So if you've got a guy that was able to turn it around this season, we get to the playoffs. If we make a deep run specifically is what I'm talking about, and they decide to keep him, like we get to the divisional round or even further, and then the divisional round, we make some noise and it's close. I'm not going to sit there and be like, man, we still need to get rid of Eberflus. That's, I guess, what I'm saying. I'll be okay either way. Probably push for it a little bit. But I want that. I want us to look good this year. That's it. Anything? I got a little more ranty than I wanted it.
Yeah. Let's get the hell out of here.
All right. Well, I'm Kevin. No, I'm Adam.
No. Do the episode over again.
Oh, it's bad. Now we can't post this one. I'm Adam. That's Kev. Thank you for sliding into Virginia's DMs.
Bye.